What's good everyone, it's your boy yadiiiigg, 4 eyes, 2 G's here, and today we're here to talk about Lil Uzi Vert and Playboi Carti. And recently I've been live streaming a lot. Shout out to the live stream squad who tune in and show me love. Make sure to hit the notification bell to stay tapped in when I go live. But one topic that always seems to come up is Carti and Uzi and why the two aren't cool anymore. And honestly, this is such a multi-layered discussion, and in my opinion, to understand the Carti and Uzi dynamic, you need to analyze and understand the history of Carti with his cliques and collaborators, and really you need to be honest with who Carti is and his history. I want to state that off the bat that this is just my perspective on the situation. I just ask that you take off your Stan glasses, keep an open mind, and watch the whole video because there's a lot of moving parts to this story. Off the bat though, it's very important to clarify that there isn't any real beef between the two. Fans, I think, got caught up in the hype in the moment and started to create all these different narratives that really have no substance. No, the two are not beefing. No, the two don't hate each other. Uzi clarified himself that the two are not beefing. However, the two did go a different route, and furthermore, he doesn't know where Carti is, which to anyone who has followed Carti is a familiar story. The pattern of Carti aligning himself with someone or a group of people, then later moving on from them is a pattern that has occurred several times throughout his career, and I need to give you guys a backstory to this so the Uzi relationship breakdown makes more sense. So before Carti was Carti, and basically before he was anyone or had any sort of buzz, he would be taken in by Awful Records in 2014, who comparatively at that time had a huge internet presence thanks to the likes of Father and Slug Christ being prolific internet acts at the time. They would open their doors to Carti, take him under their wing, give him production, features, their platform, etc. But instead, Carti essentially used their name for clout, for attention, for exposure, and when he glowed up from their cosign and got an opportunity to move on to bigger and better things, he moved on, started running with Ian Connor, and never so much as worked with an Awful member again after. Carti also came up with Unotheactivist. If you guys aren't aware, Carti, 40 and Uno did form a clique at the very start of their respective careers around 2014 and 2015 called Splo Gang. They hung out together a lot, collabed together, and were seen as a trio. However, Carti's relationship with both of them soured due to Carti taking many actions that people say were very snakish. I've done separate videos on both their situations, so make sure to check them out. They are very long stories, so I can't explain them fully in this video, but the same general thing that Carti did to Awful, he pretty much did to Unotheactivist. He did them both dirty, and when the opportunity arose for Carti to leave them and go hang with the mob, he had no qualms about leaving the two behind, and according to Fauni, was even talking down about Unotheactivist behind their back to Rocky and Barry. And again, to a lesser extent, he did the same thing with Ian Connor. We all know how important Ian was to Carti's career. There is definitely an argument to say that the Carti we know of today wouldn't exist without Ian's help in his career early on. And although Ian and him are still cool, it's very noticeable that publicly, Carti doesn't recognize or associate himself with Ian like he did back in 2015. When Ian's name started to gain a lot of heat a few years ago due to the allegations, Carti very noticeably fell back from associating with him. Flashback to the Hot 97 interview in 2017, where rather than actually saying Ian's name when he was talking about how he met Rocky, he referred to Ian as a member of ASAP, and only when Rosenberg specifically asked who it was, he said Ian.
Another friend of mine who was part of ASAP, so Rocky was just, if he wanted to find out anything about me, he would just hit up, you know, the other ASAP artist who was around me, you know what I'm saying?
And who was that?
That was Ian.
And guys, before we go on, I want to give a shout out from my Instagram. Big shout outs goes to Cash Carti-ish, one of the GOAT Carti pages. Make sure to check it out if you guys haven't. Also, make sure to check out your boy on Instagram. Man, I'm pumping the content out for y'all. Go drop me a follow. Go support your boy. Also, you can see the Carti Uzi Travis merch tees on screen right now. Link in the description to cop if you're interested. And as I said, I've been putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort into the content recently. So if you could please like the video, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications. Your support is much appreciated. But let's get back to Carti and Uzi. I say all this to paint a picture that there is a history of Carti using people for clout, using them for what he can gain from them, and then when he wants to, he moves on from them and basically stops associating with them altogether as if they never had a relationship and doesn't show them the same love that they showed him. Now, with everything I just said in mind, let's try relate this to Carti and Uzi. So although Uzi's and Carti's relationship definitely seemed genuine to a certain extent, I think at the same time, Carti recognized that Uzi was in a position where he could gain off of him in order to bolster his own status. Flashback to 2017 before self-titled, Carti wasn't even in the mainstream at this point. His biggest songs were Broke Boy and Fetty, which were just internet hits. Carti was literally yet to have a song on the charts or even have an official project out. Contrast this with Uzi, who ran 2016 with multiple hit songs, big projects, was on Bad and Bougie, and had just put out his pop hit, career-changing single EXO Tour Life. If you weren't into the scene around this era, you won't know, but it's super important to this story that you understand that Carti and Uzi were on such different levels in terms of mainstream relevance, in terms of buzz, and in terms of sheer fan base size back then. So then, when it's time for Carti to drop a project, who does he look for his 2 lead singles? Lil Uzi. To get someone on both your lead singles for your debut project, to me, I kinda saw that as Carti riding off the back of Uzi's wave. In my opinion, Carti clearly recognized the power of associating himself so heavily with Uzi at that time because he realized how big Uzi was. And these Uzi cosigns definitely benefited Carti and helped expose him to a bigger audience without a doubt. To make this point a little bit more evident as well, Carti only has 5 of his own singles that are certified, and 3 of those 5 songs feature Lil Uzi. So hopefully that kind of gets a point across in how Uzi has helped Carti throughout his career, and how Carti was opportunistic and benefited from their relationship. And again, harkening back to my point about Carti going separate ways with Awful, Ian, Unotheactivist, etc., you could see the parting of Carti and Uzi as another move by Carti where he closely associates himself with someone he can benefit from at one point in time, and then when Carti doesn't feel like it anymore, he just moves on from them and never addresses why or the specifics as to what happened. The next point that's super important to mention is the scrapped 16x29 collaborative Uzi and Carti project. I've got a more in-depth video coming on the story behind this, so make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to know when that drops. But if you aren't aware, what's speculated to happen here is that the album was scrapped due to multiple songs from the album leaking, and I think the scrapping of the project also played a role in their relationship breaking down. Firstly, imagine you're planning to drop an album with someone and then essentially the whole album leaks. Both of you would be wondering what happened. Both of you would be looking around for people to blame, and without a doubt this would cause a lot of tension in a relationship and would definitely complicate things moving forward, because this is messing with already recorded music, already planned rollouts, and basically already finished albums. So I think this would have affected the two's relationship. Furthermore, if you didn't know, the two actually already had a tour plan to promote the album, a pretty big 18-date tour, which they were forced to cancel. Now, it's impossible to know exactly how much money each of them were going to make off the tour, but let's play it very safe and just assume that they were going to make a light $10,000 a show each. Now that is very conservative, but it would mean that they would gross something like $180,000 each for the whole tour. So now, not only has the whole album been scrapped, multiple songs of theirs are out, which affected the rollout and plan of the music, but now as a result, it's affected a planned tour and other business behind the scenes, messing with tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that they were both planning to make. Again, when you begin to break it down this way in terms of the album being scrapped and the tour being scrapped, you can see how it would have affected the two's relationship. And let's be honest, although I can't prove this, in my opinion, after the 1629 album got scrapped, we never really saw the two cool again like that or associate in the same way ever again. The relationship kinda went south. And I think the most recent tweets from Uzi towards Carti say a lot. It's evident that he still wants to be cool with Carti and is still open to the idea of working with Carti. However, he isn't receiving the same energy and isn't able to reach Carti, which again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's the same story we've heard before with Unotheactivist, etc. And as I said in my other video about this topic, we can't even judge Carti too harshly for being like this. That's how the music business goes. I can understand why Carti has done it, because Carti has done what he needs to do to be successful. But I do think his relationship with Uzi was another case of this. He saw how Uzi could help him because Uzi was on such a big platform, but now he doesn't really associate, or he doesn't really need Uzi as much anymore because he's got his own thing popping, so he doesn't associate with him in the same way. However, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We're seeing Carti Carti patched things up with a lot of previous collaborators recently, like Joe, Ethereal, Young Bands. So in my opinion, I think we're gonna see a reunion of Carti and Uzi soon. It's just a matter of when that'll be. I don't think they're gonna do an album together or anything, but I would seriously be surprised if we don't see them back together musically in some way, because I do think Uzi really wants it. Either way though, even if they don't, and whoever's side you're on or what you believe, the era of Uzi and Carti is such an iconic time in internet rap, and even if we never see the two back together again, we're lucky to have gotten as much as we did. And if you guys made it this far and you watched the whole video, comment your dig down below, man. I appreciate you guys watching the full video. That means a lot. As I said, like button, subscribe button, turn on notifications, make sure to do all that. Your support is much appreciated. More content on the way at yadiiiigg. Make sure to follow your boy on Instagram. You guys know the go. And there are more videos all around me right now. Make sure to check them out if you haven't.